Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast, coming to you live after a Chargers 17-13 barn burner win over the Atlanta Falcons. My name is Steven, and I am the host, as always. And joining me this afternoon in one of the fastest games I can remember is my guy, Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing very well because the Chargers won that game. So I think most of it is remedied when you win the game. And a great interception to seal the game by Derwin James. Positive end result. A lot of shaky stuff in the game. Excited to talk about all of it today.
Yeah, winning is better than losing. 8-4 is better than 7-5. I don't know what it is about the Atlanta Falcons Chargers games, but none of them are ever normal in any capacity. Obviously, the last time the Chargers played, there was that whole sequence where Austin Eckler fumbled, and then the guy returning it fumbled back to the Chargers. The Chargers won. You know, in 2020, there was the infamous, tried to run a field goal out when there was no time in the second half game. It's a weird, not rivalry. That's way too strong, but very strange matchup historically for these two teams. So the Chargers are obviously sitting at 8-4, which is in a great position to, be in the AFC right now. And we'll talk about some of the concerns today, but I think it's only fair that we start from a positive perspective. And obviously that's the defense and the way that the defense responded. I was nervous after that first drive. Falcons just marched down with ease. And then Younghoe misses the field goal, but I was like, okay, the defense they're just like beat up from playing the Ravens, whatever. They responded wonderfully. And it's not just the 4 interceptions. Obviously that helps, but I think that they played much better after the first drive. They were able to get Kirk Cousins on some pressures. I know they only had the 1 sack, but the DBs it seemed really dialed into everything. And of course, headlined by Tarheeb STEAL and his pick 6 and the other interception, another pass breakup. So he played fantastic today. But to me, like that's the story of the day, is the way that the defense responded as a whole after a tough showing against the Ravens, a tough first drive, and they were able to come out and put together a really, really strong performance, again, aided by some puzzling Kirk Cousins throws. But overall, that's what we wanted to see from this defense. How would you respond? And they responded wonderfully, and that's the reason why they won today over the Atlanta Falcons 17-13.
It was a heck of a showing by, I would say, most of the DBs in this game. But regardless, given the circumstances, given the injuries, given the short week, given everything, I mean, there were backups of backups out there. I mean, even Eli Apple wasn't out there because he's on IR. I mean, they're trying to get anybody out there to play corner, to play safety. And these guys stepped up tremendously this game. Yes, there's a caveat of Kirk Cousins was awful today, and I put him in the thumbnail because he was one of the best Chargers players on the field today.
For sure.
When the opportunities were there, the DBs played phenomenal, and you can probably start the way the game started with Tony Jefferson. What the heck? Where did all that come from? Or I don't know if I can say that because the last time we saw him was against the Cowboys in terms of like full gameplay, and that was an awesome performance. That was preseason. That was a long time ago. He really set the tone, I think, early. Yeah, there were some struggles. Bijan Robinson, I thought, was going for 250 in this game. I thought it was going to be one of those games, but Tony Jefferson was very physical. Tarheeb STEAL continues to be one of the steals of the draft. They're not calling him Tarheeb STEAL, and I think that's perfectly fine. The Chargers, I think now we can officially say, Tarheeb STEAL from Pokey Poppin' TV, total steal. The fact that Lad McConkey will probably lead all rookie receivers in receiving yards this year. The fact that he might not even be the steal of the draft because there are 2 other Chargers players who are in contention for that, especially if Cam Hart were playing, is ridiculous. I mean, Tarheeb STEAL, I don't know what they saw in him or what game they saw in him or whatever it was, but the combination of the scouts and what they saw and the coaching, he's been phenomenal. I mean, the Chargers finally got, I think, their 2021 draft that the Chiefs had, or the whatever set of drafts it was that the Seahawks had, that completely flipped their fortunes. The Chargers, they were phenomenal. But then finally, and we've discussed him more recently, Derwin James.
He was awesome today.
He was so good today. Yes, he had the game-winning interception. Awesome. But just throughout the game, very consistently there in coverage, run defense. The backside chase downs on at least 2 plays in this game.
Yeah.
I mean, who was trying to block him on that one particular one on 3rd and 1, he had no chance. Like the receiver had no idea that Derwin James could move like that, go that fast. And he just flew right past him.
Yeah.
Phenomenal game. Elijah Molden played well. Marcus May had an interception. We continue to praise Jesse Minter and the defensive back lens that he has and how everyone continues to step up and be good for him. And it showed today.
Sorry, just cracking up at the latest super chat, which we'll get to. We appreciate it. There's already 9 super chats. We thank you guys. Yeah, I think, there was a lot of panic about the Chargers defense, and there were definitely some moments today where I think you can see some chinks in the armor, if you will. But the way that this defense is coached and taught, they're always in the right positions. I mean, they saw those jet sweeps coming every single time. And Derwin, Elijah Molden, Down Henley, they were instantly reading and reacting. There were several times where they are on Drake London instantly, and Drake's going to catch some passes, right? But, because he's that player. But the defensive secondary was always in the right position. And they did this a couple of weeks ago where they bring in somebody like Eli Apple off the street. Granted, Eli Apple had like 2.5, 3 weeks on the practice squad. And then they were using him in a very creative way to just give him like a simple, like 10-play role, but it impacts the game. And they come out and they do the same thing with Marcus May, who, again, he's been a veteran for, 8-9 years in the league, but he was signed on Monday, probably didn't get to the Chargers until Wednesday. And he has an interception. He has a couple other really, really good reps. The way that this regime can just put these guys in good positions to play and play well is just so fantastic to see. They missed Denzel Perryman a lot again today, but Troy Dye played well, right? And, there was a whole back and forth between him and Nick Neiman, but Troy Dye comes in and has and makes an impact. These guys just come in and every single player is put in a position to succeed. And yes, there are some things to address. Bijan goes over 100, but he averages 3.9 on the day. My favorite thing about the way they played Bijan is he only forced 2 missed tackles on the day right now, according to PFF. And that's something you and I were really concerned about, is the way that he can create, a 5-yard check down into a 20-yard gain. We didn't see that today. And the Chargers deserve a lot of credit for how they rallied and tackled around Bijan. And yeah, he has 100 yards, but 27 carries to get there. So I thought the defense responded wonderfully. I thought everything was coached well. I thought they were consistently on it when it came to timing and technique. So it's just been great to see, right? This defense is going to be in good positions every single week. And this team that they played today did not have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. So this is the result.
Yes, no MVP front runner at quarterback today. And that definitely helped things for the Chargers for sure. But as people in the chat are mentioning, like Chris O'Leary, the safeties coach, and as we mentioned before, Steve Klinksky, all these guys are just, they've got the Chargers in the right spot every single time. Everyone's brought up to speed immediately and maximized in this defense. And I can't say that's been the case. I mean, yes, the defense, I guess, could have played better. Would you prefer a better performance regardless of how Cousins played? Sure, I guess. But what do we expect at this point, given the DBs that they have on the field? Fulton is their only starting corner, really, and he's not been himself post-injuries. I don't know if he's not 100%. What they've been able to do with this group, it's a 30-point loss. I mean, we've seen this a million times where Herbert, it maybe doesn't. I mean, we can talk about the offense, and we will in a bit. Offense doesn't do so hot. They lose by 30, 20, 17. They won this game, and it's phenomenal given what they have out there.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I can really only recall one game where the Chargers won it when the offense was not playing well previously, and that was the Broncos Monday night game where the Dustin Hopkins walk-off kick when he was injured, and Jasier Taylor forced a punt or forced a fumble on special teams. They had a really nice punt return. It was basically like a special teams battle that day, and they were able to come out on top. So we'll get to the offense because they put up 187 total yards on the day, which is an atrocity. But the Chargers win. The defense played fantastic. I think the story of this season has really been about elevating players, right? And at the same time, some of these players are really responding with great moments. And specifically, I want to take another moment and highlight Tarheeb STEAL because against the Browns, he had one of the best tape performances of any Chargers corner I've ever studied. And I have a feeling that that's going to be the case again today.
Yep.
He is really showing that the ceiling of Tarheeb STEAL is tremendously high. And Seth Walder of ESPN tweeted out that of every cornerback in the NFL, he is generating the most EPA per target of any corner in the NFL. And that's not a, one-for-one way to judge how cornerbacks are giving their teams value. But then he also pointed out that he is allowing separation at above, or he is not allowing separation at an above average level. So he's playing the football extremely well. He's consistently in the right positions. I thought he could have had 2 pass breakups. There was that one Ray McLeod big play where it was just like a tick late. But he's been, to me, obviously the surprise of the season for this Chargers team. And there's several good candidates in that category. But you praised Tarheeb. I also wanted to jump on that train just because he gave the Chargers a win today that they should not have won. And obviously there were some other benefactors there, but 2 interceptions, 1 for touchdown. It was just great to see.
Yeah, he's seeing everything so well. You mentioned the near at least pass breakup that he could have had. He's seeing it beautifully. He's playing it almost perfectly. He's just off by that much to another pass breakup. 2 picks, a pass breakup this game. I've just been tremendously impressed with him. He is, I can't imagine there's a bigger surprise this season than Tarheeb STEAL, given the expectations for him, because most of us went, who, when they drafted him. And then most of us watched the film and went, all right, like there's some traits here, but not exactly like Cam Hart. We felt, yep, get it, see it, got it, good. Tarheeb STEAL was more of a prove us wrong sort of situation. And I love being proved wrong when it's positive because boy, he's been fantastic.
Yeah. 100%. Other standouts on defense side, we talked about the secondary and a little bit of Troy Dye, but anybody else stand out for you on defense?
I mean, there was a couple splashy plays here and there from the defensive line, some of the linebackers, but that was mostly about the secondary for me. I will say, like, it's not a great showing. He's not playing at an all-pro level. I appreciate Troy Dye being out there and playing as well as a special teams linebacker really could be. I think he had 9 tackles on the day. It's kind of all you can ask for at this point.
Yeah, I think he played pretty well. Denzel Perryman, we'll see what happens with him. Like the Chargers are missing that just like downhill hammerhead mentality, but Troy Dye definitely played well. Ladd, excuse me. We'll get to Ladd in a second, but Dayon, I think, was a little limited. He did have the calf injury pop up on Friday. He played, but I think it was a little limited there. He did have a couple of really splash plays as he has continued to do so, but and then Tear Tart, man, I'm gonna continue to talk about him because he gets the only Charger sack of the day. He had a couple other run stops on PFF. We're going to get to a point where he's just going to have to be out there more consistently. And I think we've reached that point personally. I think Tear Tart is having a fantastic season. Him and Puna Ford have really anchored down, and you can tell a difference when those guys are out there versus when they're not. And Tart consistently popping from a pass rushing perspective has just been wonderful to see. Each and every week, I feel like he's getting, close to getting a sack, or he does get a sack. His ability to win with power, speed is just it's insane to me to watch sometimes.
So a little better for your snaps asked for this game. Otito Egbonia did out-snap him, but it was 35 for Otito, 32 for Tart. So it's more of an even split there, whereas I think it was 14 difference the last game.
I'll live with that. Morgan Fox with 37, Otito 35, Tear Tart 32. I'll live with that. For those in the chat that might have been a little late, Tyler did talk about the way that Tony Jefferson played today. And I think that was a key part in kind of helping the defense respond because, again, they had that first drive where it was just kind of tough sledding for them. And then I think he came out on the second drive and had a really, couple solid tackles. So Tony Jefferson definitely deserves praise. And then Derwin, I can't wait to watch the tape because it felt like Derwin James was just everywhere, right? It felt like he potentially could be the best player on tape watch. We'll see what happens there, but it just feels like he was covering Kyle Pitts really well. He was covering Drake London on a couple of times, making 2 run stops, tackles for losses. The only thing we missed was a sack. So an outstanding day from Derwin James, as we have been kind of waiting for him to get some of these splash plays. And obviously that happened today.
Yeah, I'm curious what the usage is in terms of what he's been asked to do, because he was until about 3-4 weeks ago playing more deep. I don't know if it's the, hey, we trust Elijah Molden more, we feel better about our safeties or what, but now he's making these plays in the backfield. I think he had a sack back-to-back weeks going into this one. Didn't have one today, but had several tackles for loss. So now he's existing in the backfield, and that's just more fun. There's nothing more fun than Derwin when he's really good.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so the Steelers just beat the Bengals. All right,
44-38. That was the score.
It was 21-21 at halftime. I never would have guessed that.
Gosh.
All right, let's get to the other side of the ball, which is not going to be.
We have to.
It's not going to be as positive. Again, the Chargers win, and we're gonna try and not seem like Debbie Downers, but you have to talk away about the way this offense played today. So the Chargers get 187 total yards of offense. If you take away the kneel downs, it was 191. So there's that, I guess, if you want to be a little bit nicer. But the Chargers overall had 40 yards of offense in the second half. They had 2 first downs in the second half. The offense today, it was so frustrating to watch. The Falcons defense, we talked about it. It's kind of ranked in like the 20s. It's not a horrible defense, but it's not a great defense either. What they were heading into today was the worst pass rush in the league, and they sacked Justin Herbert 5 times. This offense is extremely concerning to me right now. We did our Panic or Patience show on Tuesday or on Wednesday, and I think we panicked about certain parts of the offense. But Ladd is injured now. Ladd McConkey had 117 yards of the 187 yards of offense, and he re-aggravated his shoulder injury today and is dealing with a knee injury as well. He was not able to finish the game, as much as he would have liked. So if Ladd McConkey has to miss some time, I don't know where this offense is going to get yards from consistently. It is in such a bad spot to me, and some of it, a very large portion of it, in my opinion, is the way that it's being called in the second half. And we can talk more in depth about it, but this offense is a major, major concern for me right now. They're going to play the Chiefs next week. They're going to play the Buccaneers after that. Those are 2 really, really good defenses. Then they play the Broncos.
Yeah.
They have to win at least one of those 3 games. If they go 0-3, it's going to be really, really tough to get into the playoffs because, the way that the Broncos are playing, et cetera. And to me, it's not even about getting to the playoffs at this point. It's about getting the offense in some kind of rhythm in the second half. It's a major concern for me, especially with the way that Justin Herbert is playing, that your offense cannot get more than half a dozen first downs in the second half. So it's really frustrating. Today was a major head scratcher to me, and I'm officially like red alert about this offense in the second half in particular.
Yeah, we've been cautious this season, then cautiously optimistic, and then seeing things trend in the right direction, especially due to health. You lose Ladd McConkey. I don't know if the Chargers score a point in this game unless Tarheeb still does it for them. Thankfully, Cameron Dicker's been money in terms of field goals the last few weeks. Hit another 50-plus yard field goal today. But this offense, look, there are definitely personnel issues. Part of it, injuries, of course. They could have more talent on offense, right? I'm not saying this is a stacked team underperforming by any means, but tell that to the defense in an offensive-driven league and the way the defense performed today with more injuries and less talent, and certainly no Justin Herbert out there. It is unacceptable how this offense looks, frankly, through most of the last couple of games and definitely through the last 10 quarters. It is basically unacceptable. It is it's a whole system issue. And the receivers, whether it's called or the receivers themselves, they can't separate. The offensive line is starting to figure out, but the receivers can't separate. So Herbert's holding onto the ball for 4 seconds, waiting for anybody. And then, somebody gives up a sack because at some point, 3-4 seconds go by. You can't sustain a block for that long. Well, JK Dobbins is out. So now you don't have your check down guy. So whereas before Herbert's been able to flip it to Dobbins, which they've been working on the last couple of weeks. Whoops, there's nobody there. But then there's nobody really available. Nothing's really being called there. They're not running. Gus Edwards, Kamani Vidal. I'm not saying they were world breakers today. Bijan was the better running back today, obviously. They played fine, in my opinion. Why aren't we running it in the second half? I understand that Herbert is a very good quarterback, and Herbert can do some magical, mystical things. But after a while, and probably after the Falcons increased their sack total by 50% in one game, you probably should start running the ball a little bit more or designing anything else. DJ Chark doubled his snap count today, so that's really cool. He went from 1 to 2. So, hey, that's progress, I suppose. I don't know what's going on with DJ Chark. They refused to use him. They did push the ball down the field less this week, which is fine. We were kind of expecting that given the safeties, but I don't know. It's timing, it's execution, it's everything. This offense stinks, and it mostly stinks in general, but it is terrible in the second half. This team should not have 40 yards in the second half against the Falcons. 40 yards is unacceptable. They're not winning next week with this offense. They're not beating the Bucs with this offense. The Broncos are the best defense in football over the last few weeks. I don't know if you beat Denver with this offense. So figure it out, guys, because Kirk Cousins is going to give you 4 interceptions every week.
Yeah, and as Frank points out in the chat, they are continually making themselves one-dimensional in the second half. I don't understand it. This is a Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh offense that has prided themselves for 2 decades of being a physical run-first team, and they actively are not running the football in the second half. They had 2 carries in the second half. 2. They came out on the first drive and went 3 passes straight. Second drive was 3 passes straight. The fourth drive, they finally ran the ball, and Gus Edwards got 1 first down, and then Kamani had a rush that went for 3 yards, and then it was passing complete. Then their last drive was 4 straight passes, and 1 was complete for a first down, and then they were all incomplete after that. I do not understand the way that this offense is called right now in the second half. It makes no sense to me that this specific regime is actively refusing to run the football, and they were running it well. They objectively were doing it at a much better, much more efficient clip in the first half than they were last week. And you're in a positive game script. After that pick 6, the next time you get the ball, you're in 4-minute drive situation, 6-minute drive situation, and you're refusing to run the football. So I don't understand, especially after Ladd is getting injured. You don't have a choice. You're actively trying to continue to throw the ball downfield. It's your only option when you're winning. So I don't understand. Justin Herbert, as of this current moment, has the highest time to throw average of any quarterback of the day at 3.21. Again, it's only the first window. The second window has not started. Sunday night, Monday night, whatever. Mm-hmm. That's not how this Chargers team is going to successfully move the football, in my opinion. There's no quick, easy answers. There's no screen game today. I don't understand. I think Greg Roman, as a whole, has been better than I would have expected. But the last few weeks, and specifically in the second half, I'm where are your easy buttons? Where are the easy touches for Ladd and for QJ, for anyone? It's so difficult. Everything is vertical. Everything is play action. Everything is deep drops. I hate it. I'm so sick of watching an offense have 50 yards in the second half and just continually punt and punt and punt. The defense played awesome. You should not ask your defense to have to bail you out like that every single week. So the offense has to change. The approach has to change, or this team, they might make the playoffs because they're that far ahead. Yeah. But we're trying to look at this team as a team who could potentially win a playoff game. And if they are going to play and coach offense like this, it is not going to happen. They are going to go into Pittsburgh or wherever, and the offense is going to not move the ball at all. and everybody's going to have major question marks about the offense because they just like the way that they are coaching offense and the way that they're coaching defense could not be more different, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, you're not going to win anything in the post. You're not going to go to Buffalo. I just saw the weather report. You're not going to Buffalo and praying for better. Like the Chargers basically had this game to readjust, to learn how to operate and run the football, especially without Dobbins. Can you capture some of that, late January, February postseason run game identity where you got to go on the road and run it? Well, hey, great test. Yes, Dobbins is hurt, but your line's healthy. They've been blocking well. Matlock's improved. Fisk is improved. You've got Edwards. Feel good about Vidal in theory. All right, you're going to go figure out how to run the football. That way, when you go into Arrowhead next week or have to face the Bucks or whatever, you can at least run the football. And they didn't figure out how to run the football. So now they're going to have to learn how to run the football somehow while McConkey is potentially out next week, hopefully for not for very long. I mean, they're pretty SOL. They are going to head into face some very good teams that know how to score, can score. You can't give the Chiefs what you gave the Falcons today and win. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. It's the approach is just really frustrating. And I was hoping, okay, so you play the Bengals defense, the Ravens defense is not, anything great. They're good, but not great. And then you play the Falcons. Let's work some of these kinks out. Let's figure out who we are on the ground. And then, when you play the better defenses, then you can at least be kind of in a rhythm. The offense is completely out of whack right now. And they're going to go up against 3 great defenses over the next 3 weeks. And it's going to be tough sledding. And, they only need 2 more wins to get to 10 wins now, it's great. The season as a whole has been, I would argue, a success. But the offense is a major concern, especially if Ladd is going to be missing. The last thing that I really want to address that is going to be negative, and then we'll probably get back to some positives. And if you want 100% positivity, then I don't know what to tell you after today. But that fake punt was the worst fake punt call I think I have ever seen in an NFL game. This team has been hyper conservative on 4th downs all season long. They are literally last in the league in terms of 4th down percentage. And for them to call a fake punt on their own 36-yard line was horrendous. Game management has been my only real criticism of Jim Harbaugh. And to call a fake punt in that moment, it was terrible. I legit, I was actively mad watching that game. And it was the short yard of the field. It was 4th and 6, I think. It was not like it was a 4th and 1
I think it was
fake punt call. I could not believe my eyes when I saw that JK Scott was pulling up to pass. It was truly disgusting work. Credit Stone Smart, I guess, for almost making it interesting. But of all the good things Jim Harbaugh has done today, that fake punt was, I think, the worst thing from his game management perspective I've seen all year long.
Yeah, I don't know. Not that I've watched many Falcons games, but I don't know if there's something they saw on film where they thought, hey, we can get them in this situation. I understand maybe like a 4th and 1, 4th and 2.
Sure.
Fake punt situation where
basically field is fine.
Yeah, that too. Where JK Scott doesn't have to throw it 5 or 6 yards, which I know isn't very much for Justin Herbert. That's a bit of a ways to go, and for the coverage team to react. That on their side was so interesting. They had a lead. The defense at that particular time was playing well, and Kirk Cousins was not playing very well, and they decided this was the game to throw out the fake punt out there. I don't know why they called it, honestly. Sure, if it works, we're feeling good about it, I guess, but it didn't, so I don't feel very good about it. Thankfully, Kirk Cousins decided to throw it to quadruple coverage to Marcus May in the end zone and completely bailed the Chargers out. So maybe, I guess, if you absolutely think Kirk Cousins stinks it up, I guess you have some faith that if you don't make it, it's fine. But I just don't understand why that was the call. And of course, it didn't work. To the short side of the field, like Thomas Martinez pointed out, fine. Not what I certainly would have called. I'm curious who makes that call, who dials up that play. Was that practiced a lot this week? I don't know. Not my favorite one for sure.
No, very weird. If you're gonna trust JK Scott to pass the ball, just have Justin Herbert pass the ball. I don't get it.
But it wouldn't be a fake.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a fake. Man, I don't understand that call from Jim Harbaugh and Jesse Minter and everybody. I just not Jesse Minter, excuse me, Ryan Ficken. I just don't know. So yeah. Tyler, anything else on the offense or special teams or anything like that before we get into some of these super chats?
No, I guess. I mean, I felt like we kind of hit on it. I think the offensive line played better than they're gonna be given credit for. I just think it was like you said, he had 3.2 seconds to pass, and it just didn't work out. I guess we didn't really talk about Herbert specifically. What did you make of his performance? It's kind of tough for me to tell because at like the Ravens and the Bengals games, I could see the field and see if the receivers were getting open or not.
Sure.
In this game, I couldn't quite tell. Any early takes on him?
I thought this was an up and down performance from Justin. Great tackle to save a touchdown on the Hassan Haskins fumble to open the game.
Yeah,
but that was an interesting thing. I thought so. The Falcons were credited with 5 sacks. I think on tape rewatch, I feel like 3 of them are going to be on Herbert.
Yeah.
Certainly the one that Joe Alt gave up, I feel like is on Herbert. Because Justin steps right into his alleyway and then Arnold Ebiketie just like gets right there. One of the sacks is like Herbert scrambled and like he didn't get back to the line of scrimmage. I'm fine with that one. He had a couple great throws. I don't think he missed anybody. But I do think some of the sacks that he took were a bit of a head scratcher.
Yeah, as Damage is pointing out, why didn't he run at all? I was surprised there weren't at least a couple in there. Some people were asking for design runs. I was hoping for 1 or 2, given that Dobbins was out. But him not taking off like he had the last couple of weeks is a bit of a surprise.
So after the game, Jim Harbaugh was asked about the offensive struggles, and he said, quote, "We're going to rage, we're going to attack it, and we're going to do better," end quote. So
I need him to pull an Antonio Pierce and say this is the worst offense in the NFL, because that almost worked for the Raiders.
Yeah, I guess so. The other thing I will say regarding special teams, you mentioned Cameron Dicker, but he has officially tied John Carney with the most made field goals of 50 yards plus today. So shout out to Cam Dicker. Cool. This is his 3rd season, and he's already tied with 50-yard field goals. So he should break that record in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, wow.
Good for him.
And I guess, I'm sorry, we didn't actually mention this. I do want to talk about it because we've sort of barely touched on it. But I still want to continue to praise Ladd McConkey. I don't think we spent a whole lot of time on him.
Good call.
Like, we did mention him, and his injury is kind of the story now, but the dude is like the only thing that was working. Yeah, there was the fumble. Like, the worst play he's made all season is a 50-yard fumble. Just another 117 yards, another great game from him. The only thing that works. That guy is tough as hell too. He'll probably be out there against the Chiefs because he's so tough.
Yeah.
Just tremendous. Like, no one else wanted to step up today. I felt like in the receiving or tight end room. Part of that's also play calling and whatnot. But like, Ladd McConkey he's gonna die on the field. Like, he is a Harbaugh guy through and through. He would rather be carried off like unconscious than give up or not be out there. He's so freaking awesome.
Yeah, his second catch, I think, is when he re-aggravated the shoulder injury, and then you could tell every catch after that, he's taking like 3-4 seconds to get up. He's just wincing in pain, but he was just open all day long. So PFF has him at 4.72 yards per route run today, which is an insanely good number. Ladd is awesome. If I hope he's able to be out there. But he's easily on pace for 1,000 yards at this point in time.
Yep.
118 yards today puts him at 816. So he's a couple more games away from 100-yard or 1,000-yard season as a rookie. So he's been fantastic. The injuries they're all little things. Thomas Martinez is in here was pointing out that Ladd has kind of started to do the whole thing where he'll slide before contact, as Tyler Lockett has done for a really long time in Seattle. Maybe that's kind of an approach we see stick around long term. I don't know if that was specifically related to his injury thing today, but Lad's awesome. I think he's been, again, one of the stories of the season is his development and his chemistry with Justin Herbert. It was literally the only source of offense today. So he deserves a ton of credit. 118 yards today officially from PFF, and well on his way to 1,000.
Knock on wood. Get out there and be healthy. If it's an absence, miss one game, get out there, get that 1,000.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Okay, should we get to these super chats? There's 23 of them. So
all right, 23 after an iffy win. I love it.
Love it. And we understand, right, that we were pretty negative about the offense, but they deserve it, honestly. We'll get to hopefully some more positive things throughout the super chat. So we appreciate you guys for jumping in here and sending the super chats. It sincerely means a lot.
Mm-hmm.
First one earlier was from Athir. He says the defense best player on the team, seal it. I love you, DJ. I had faith in my DC and my coach. This is the difference, having a great coaching staff.
Definitely. Minter absolutely is the difference. I didn't know how much of a difference a defensive coordinator could make until we went from the one extreme to the complete opposite. Now we're on the good side of things. It's awesome. I would say Durbin's been the best player on defense the last few weeks. You can argue like maybe Puna Ford in fewer snaps. He's been awesome.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Puna's been great. He's probably second. Khalil has been injured.
Yeah.
And as a side note, we don't need to do the Khalil Mack wash conversation as a fan base. He's playing through 2 groin injuries right now. That man is fine. He's playing really, really good outside of that. So we can give him some grace while he's dealing with these 2 groin injuries.
Yeah.
Caesar, the offense going into win his protection program during the second halves of games need to be solved. Get the offense off the milk carton. Yeah, it's easily the biggest issue on the team right now. Not having Lad would obviously make that issue worse, but it's just a head scratcher to me the way that they are actively refusing to run the football. So, maybe potentially not having Lad could be a bit of a blessing in disguise next week, because it would theoretically force them to run the football a lot. It will be very cold in Kansas City, so maybe next week they can kind of figure it out a bit and actually run the football in second halves. So we'll see what happens there, I guess.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the EPA stats to come up for the second half. I'm sure the success rate, you have 40 yards. I can't imagine there's a worse second half offense this week. So once again, Greg Roman's unit has not been able to figure it out at all.
No, and that's been a trend for the entire season, basically. Caesar also says every opposing offensive line and defensive line has a get-right game against the Chargers. It's uncanny. Team needs to self-scout and see where the issues are and develop counters. I will say PFF has the pressure rate for Justin Herbert at 35%. So still not great, but it's not, it's been worse in the past previously. But that rate against this Falcons team is definitely a disappointment from this offensive line and the way that they were not able to protect Justin Herbert today.
Yeah, I would agree.
Rich E just says a simple W. We appreciate it, Rich.
Thank you,
Anthony Navarro, did we steal some of the Chiefs' endgame magic? Love y'all.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll find out next week, I guess.
Hope so. I don't think anybody has endgame magic more than the Chiefs right now.
No, they're in a whole different tier.
Yeah. J29 says, stop making Lad play through injuries. They already decided the season wasn't worth it when they decided not to get him any help on the deadline. Interesting takeaway there.
I get part of the sentiment. Like, yeah, they didn't go all in this year because they know, even though they could do some damage this year, it is about the next couple of years. It's hard to tell McConkey to get off the field. Obviously, like, he will drag himself out there. So
yeah,
he wants to play through those injuries. Same as Herbert, same as Khalil Mack, same as Slater and Joe Alt and all these guys. It's just they preach there every day, and he's going to try to be out there.
Yeah, there every day is Lad McConkey to a T. He was also back in Georgia for the first time in his career. He had a ton of, I think he said he had like 30 family members and friends there. So he was going to play, right? And I think until the knee injury popped up, he would have continued to do so. But he played fantastic. He's been awesome this season. They should give him some easier touches too, since they can't do anything else on offense in the second half. Thomas Howley, I apologize there, but feel free and let me know in the chat how to pronounce that name. He says Heeb and May interceptions got him hyped. You fellas rock. Also, are you looking at something online?
Yeah, Tarheeb still literally got a notice on his locker that he's being randomly drug tested.
That is fantastic timing from the NFL. That's really funny. Did he post that on Twitter?
No, on Instagram.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's hilarious.
Good for Tarheeb, man. So he has is it 4 interceptions on the year now?
Definitely 3.
Let's see. 3 is correct.
Okay.
Good for him, man. Good for him. There's a next super chat in here, but I am not going to put it up because I can't tell if it's serious or not. And the name is interesting, but DDPO, thank you for the super chat. I'm just going to say
I got it. Don't worry. Daddy don't pull out says ding dong diddly holy guacamole cracker jacks. Okay, we can move on.
All right. Oh my gosh. And then Joel says Heap can have his children or her children. I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting comment there, but I appreciate the super chat. New Jersey Savage says Derwin had me scared when he was on the ground. I almost cried. Yeah, he got banged up a couple of times, I think, and then had obviously a fantastic game after that. So he's been great. For some reason, some portions of the fan base have been pretty critical of Derwin, but I think each and every week we see the real impact of Derwin, and then today he gets the splash plays, and love to see it. Hopefully, it's a sign of some things to come.
Yeah, I think Brandon Staley did a number on Derwin's play and a bit of his reputation among fans, given the contract that he got. And now I think he's earning that right back.
Yeah, I think so as well. Steven Nava wants to know what a healthy defense can do for this team. Obviously, Denzel Perryman was out today. Cam Hart was out today. Asante Samuel Jr., who I don't know if he would be playing if he were healthy, is not healthy. Dayon's not been healthy. Junior Colson has not been healthy. Khalil Mack obviously dealing with some injuries. So I think it's a valid question to wonder about what kind of ceiling this has when everybody's out there.
I mean, I think you can look at the way they played against, well, obviously the Raiders, Panthers, even the Steelers through most of that game, the Chiefs, early on in those games, like they smacked them around.
Yeah. We focused a lot on the floor being higher, but I think, Junior, I think Junior can come back this upcoming week from injury reserve, if I'm recalling correctly when he was placed on injury reserve. Denzel should be back soon. Obviously, he was not placed on injury reserve. Same thing as Cam Hart. And Alohi should be back at some point at the end of the season. So hopefully some reinforcements coming for the defense in the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
Tara Romero, appreciate her in here. She says that she loves our insight. Biggest reason for the offensive struggles: receivers not getting open, offensive line giving Herbo no time, or the lack of the run game. If you had to pick one of those, Tyler, what would you say is the biggest reason?
If I had to pick one, it would be the receivers not getting open, but by extension or by attachment or whatever, it is also the play calling to not get open. Lack of run game, maybe. But it's kind of all of it, except maybe the offensive line today, even though they were struggling a bit.
Yeah. I think for me, it's just everything is called so difficultly in the second half. There's no real easy buttons being called. You watch, obviously the biggest example of this is the Dolphins, right? Like they give Tua and that offense so many easy buttons every single week, but you look at the best offenses in the league and there's screens and jet sweeps and easy catches, and there's a lot of rhythm to be had with some of those plays. Not to say that you should always rely on the easy buttons, but there's no easy buttons right now for me, and that's like the biggest takeaway over the last couple of weeks is they're not. There's no real like drive starting play calls. It's just like we're just going to run our traditional run game, traditional dropbacks, and we'll figure it out. And they have not been able to do that. So the way the offense is called, I think for me, is the biggest problem right now.
Yeah.
And it's strange because in this first half, they do a lot of those things. And then the second half, it's like, we're good. And it doesn't make any sense to me. But Joe Cruz says the refs were totally on the Falcons side. I saw at least 5 holds. There were some questionable calls, but I didn't think it was hugely impactful today. But we'll see what happens on a rewatch. But he wants to know what happened to Josh Palmer specifically and says that we need him. What did you see from Palmer today?
I mean, I think what he ended up with 2 catches on the day, maybe 3 catches.
2 catches with one of them being the 2-point conversion.
That's right. Every time they go to him in the short game, intermediate, down the sideline of Herbert scrambles, it seems to work other than working deep down the field, which was, hit or miss. We just saw that against the Ravens. I don't know why he's not more involved. I haven't really specifically watched him as much recently, but I think I'll have to because they're just not. There's no intention to get him the football.
Yeah, he's like their vertical threat outside of the go balls to Quentin. So it's been a little confusing again why they're not allowing him to work short of the stick sometimes because I think that's stuff that he does really well. But again, I think the word of the day today is just confusing and no rhythm with the offense. So I think Palmer is part of it. I think on the season he's been fine. I think he's on pace for like 800 yards receiving. So he's fine. I think we are comfortable with Josh Palmer as a wide receiver 3, and that's kind of been the level that he's played at this season. Frankie Sanchez, that Tarheeb reminds him of a rookie Wilt Chamberlain with how dominant he is. Surprised someone that is old enough to remember Wilt Chamberlain as a rookie is sending super chats. So congratulations on that, I guess. I think it's a joke. I know
comparison. But, yeah.
But he says that we have a legend on our hands, boys.
I'll take it. If Tarheeb still wants to be the Wilt Chamberlain of defensive backs, hey, no problem.
Yeah. What's the defensive back equivalent of 100 points in a game?
Well, I don't know. You got to have. Was he like? What were the rebound numbers that game?
I think it was like 150. Like Wilt Chamberlain is insane numbers from that guy back at that time.
Asante Samuel Jr.'s first half against the Jaguars, I guess. If he did that for another half and had 6 interceptions, maybe.
There you go. It's a good bar.
20 tackles for loss.
Yeah, cornerback getting 20 tackles for loss would be kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah.
T Clips the Barber says Herbert needs more weapons besides Ladd, and he says QJ and Palmer ain't it.
Yeah, if it's Roman can't elevate these guys, and they're not elevating Roman or Herbert. It's a bad mix right now.
Yeah, such a shame because I think the first half of the season they were doing a much better job at giving them easy opportunities, and now we're just not seeing that. Jesse Aguilar says that Tony Jefferson played amazing, and I do agree with that. Next one here from Gruder also says that May and Jefferson coming through and that pull it down. So shout out to those 2 players for coming in big in a big spot without Alohi Gilman. Yeah,
Jefferson just showed up, walked right in, played fantastic. I don't know how much he'll be playing this season, but he's earned the right to be out there after this game.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to play a lot over the next 3 weeks just because they don't have Alohi now. And this team loves the 3 safety sets because it allows Derwin to do what he did today. So Jefferson, May, I think we're going to see a lot of both of them to close the season for the Chargers. Shad back with absolutely no separation from the receivers. I am curious to watch the tape there because it felt like Justin just did not feel comfortable throwing at certain times of this game. And, for everything that we've said about the Falcons defense, they have a great coverage unit. You have 2 great safeties. AJ Terrell's a fantastic corner. D. Alford was obviously the weak link, and that showed up today. But, they have 3 of the best players of their positions in the back end. And I think that showed up today from what we saw. But they don't play the slot. McConkey feasted. Yeah. Jacob Arnall wants to know if Tarheeb still suddenly has a case for defensive rookie of the year.
So from a perspective of what we can do to argue it, yes. From an NFL league-wide perspective, nobody has any idea who Tarheeb STEAL is unless you watch these games. It's unfortunate, but no one's going to know who he is, unfortunately.
Oh, wow. Marcus May didn't practice on Wednesday or Thursday.
That's crazy. I know Simi Fehoko tweeted, I haven't even met the dude yet.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. To get an interception today, how many snaps did he play?
I had this. Where is it? Defense. Oh, I would get rid of
21. He had 21 snaps and he practiced one time.
Wow, that's impressive. Given Jefferson could have been that guy in a full-time role, huh? Interesting.
That's crazy. Jefferson played 54 for what it's worth.
Okay.
That's insane, man. He practiced one time. 21 snaps and an interception. Shout out Marcus May, man.
Plugged his brain in and did the download of the defense or something.
That's crazy. Shout out him.
Crazy.
No, but getting back to Tarheeb, I think it's obviously a great story, and a lot of film heads have talked about Tarheeb, which is great to see. Ryan Clark has talked about him a couple of times on I forget what the show exactly is called, but it's that show he does with Bill Belichick and Chris Long and Chad Ochocinco. So he's getting some attention out there, but you look at what some of these pass rushers are doing this year, and it's tough to stack up. I mean, Jared Verse is, I think, he's top 5 in the league in pressures right now, and just having an incredible season. So unfortunate for him. He won't have defensive rookie of the year stuff, but he'll get mentioned, I think, in some of the all rookie teams, because the rookie corner class has not been particularly great. And so for Tarheeb to have 3 interceptions right now, a bunch of pass breakups, it certainly is looking up for him. And I think from that perspective, he'll get recognized at the end of the year.
Yeah, I love the awards for the players. Obviously, several Chargers over the last decade have won it. At the same time, Keenan Allen lost to Eddie Lacy, and I'd rather have Keenan Allen's career. So
yeah. Yeah, I've said this a couple of times, but I was on my LDS church mission when that season happened, and I came back, and all my college friends, we do a fantasy league every year, and it's a keeper league. And so I gave my team over while I was on my mission, because you can't do fantasy football on your mission. And I came back, and the guy I gave it to had drafted Eddie Lacy, and I was super excited to have rookie of the year Eddie Lacy. And so I kept him on my team. And then that next season, he had like 300 yards. And I think that was his last season, because the dude literally ate himself out of the league. So
yes,
that was fun. So I think that was my crushing introduction back to fantasy football, was keeping Eddie Lacy on my fantasy football team.
Yes, Keenan Allen and Eddie Lacy both feasting on Thanksgiving. I was so excited to have that one.
Nice job. Nicely done.
I'm so proud of that one.
That was good. Oh man. Of all the things to talk about, Eddie Lacy on the Chargers podcast. So good times. Crescendo in here says that he wanted interior offensive line. I assume this is for next year, but wide receiver may be the move in the first round. Ladd was the only one who looked like a legit NFL wide receiver today, or tight end to someone to catch. For fuck's sakes, LL.
It's difficult. You look at this roster right now, and there are 7 good answers for what the Chargers should do in the first and second round of this upcoming draft, or where they should go in free agency. You could watch this game and go, yeah, they should probably get a defensive tackle in round 1 who can rush the passer. It could be anything. I mean, they have a lot of needs they need to fill in free agency and, of course, in the draft.
Yeah, they've got a few needs. They've got some guys who have earned the right to come back. Poona Ford, Tier Tart. I would argue Denzel Perryman should be brought back. Elijah Molden, etc. And we talked about Bradley Bozeman yesterday. There's a chance he is back. So they've got to be smart in how they spend, because I think they're going to bring a lot of these guys back, and they'll have to be aggressive in a smart fashion. But they've got 10 draft picks, and obviously, coming off of this past draft, I don't understand why we would doubt anything but a positive draft again for Joe Ortiz. So I still lean like in the first round, probably a defensive playmaker of some sort, just because the defense is a little older. They don't really have any long-term, true pieces outside of the linebacker room and Thule, and obviously the two corners. But I would love to get them like another long-term pass rusher, a long-term defensive lineman, etc. And that's kind of where it seems like the 20s are going to be able to be had. If they want to go offense, I think it's a tight end selection though for me. This tight end class is outstanding. I would love to get Colston Loveland or Tyler Warren in here, and just give them something different in the middle of the field that they don't really have right now. And you can address receiver in free agency. I think this is a fine free agency class for wide receivers. I don't think T. Higgins, but there are some other options I think that they could go after that could help. Nicholas again with the Black Magic comment. We appreciate that. Tyler or Pineapple Express. Nice. I don't know if there's a question attached there, but if there is one, feel free and send it in, and we will answer it.
I'll look for that comment.
Chris Lewis still on pace for an 11-6 record. That would be a great turnaround, he says.
I don't even know anymore. I feel better after their loss to the Ravens about this team than I did about their win against the Falcons.
Yeah,
and their upcoming schedule. I will, if Ladd McConkey is not playing, I am sorry. I'm not picking the Chargers to win next week at all. If he's not playing against the Bucs, or if the Chargers struggle like this again against the Chiefs, I wouldn't pick them to beat the Bucs. So I don't know about 11-6. Sure that they can do it, but I think they'll now lose a couple, if not three, if this is the team we're getting.
Yeah, I think this team has shown obviously that they will win the games that they should, and they have two more of those on the schedule.
Yep.
Patriots and Raiders are games that this team, even with the offensive struggles, should win. So that's 10-7 right there, and that's probably enough to get into the playoffs. That might be like the 7 seed, but we'll see, given how the Broncos and the Ravens finish the season. So this team has got to figure out some offensive issues to get to 11-6. I'm gonna have a really hard time predicting them to beat anybody they play over the next 3 weeks with the way the offense is playing. The Bucs have one of the best offenses in the league. They put up a ton of points again today. The Broncos have figured it out. The Chiefs have black magic, as we've addressed today. So the offense has to absolutely get on the right page for me to feel comfortable with 11-6.
Yeah, I agree.
But I do agree that this is still a great turnaround, even if they get to 10-7, and even if it's kind of a limp to the finish line at 10-7, because their Vegas win total was 7.5. We did go on the show back when the schedule came out and said maybe 10 wins is like the high end of the outcomes, and the fact that they could even still potentially get to 11-6 is it's a big hat tip towards Jim Harbaugh and company for what they've been able to do this year.
Yeah, I think you and I both landed on 10-7 with the kind of placeholder that it's maybe not as good of a 10-7 team as the 10-7 might indicate, given their schedule. This team might only win let's say they go 10-7 this year, they might only win one more game next year, but we'll feel better about that team potentially because they'll be a bit more battle tested with what seems to be maybe the second place schedule versus the last place one.
Yeah, that's a key part here too, is that they entered the season with like the third easiest schedule in the league. And credit to them, they've beat the teams that they should beat. Again, that's a new experience for us as Chargers fans. But overall, the season's been a success. Offense has definitely some things that they need to clean up. A couple more ones here from Daniel. Dye and Jefferson first quarter set the standards today, and I do agree with that. I think Jefferson in particular, made some really impactful tackles that really kind of got them going, and he deserves a lot of credit. I'm excited to see what Jefferson can do over the next few weeks, and Marcus May as well, kind of coming into the swing of things too. So credit to them, credit to Troy Dye, stepped up in place of some injured starters. So again, that's been kind of a theme for the defense where it's just kind of a next man up, and they play well, and things just kind of keep humming. So shout out to them for sure.
Yeah, big shout out.
Nitzer666 says a couple of those sacks were due to coverage. I do agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it'll be interesting to see what the tape looks like with those.
Yeah, it'll be tricky to give some of these sacks to whichever player, because it's been 3.2 seconds, and that's asking a lot.
Yeah. And then he came back with another one, says Pitts looked disinterested. Shocking.
Yeah, that'll the difference between Brock Bowers and Kyle Pitts in my grading was not very significant. I had Bowers higher. We had Bowers higher, but I wouldn't have guessed, although Pitts did have a good rookie season as well. But you know, you don't know about a player sometimes, if that's part of the issue.
Yeah. There was a comment about the Bucks. So the Bucks are in the second quarter right now. So jump the gun a bit there, but they are a fantastic offense. So
yeah, no, they are, and for better or worse, like Baker's not scared to let it rip. They are very confident. They fully believe in him, and they do have 7 points right now. So, you know, not bad. Let's see how many second and a half yards they get.
Yeah. Okay, one more in here from Richard. Why are you guys so down? We are 8-4 in December.
There are 3 phases of football, and only one of them made me happy today.
Yeah.
The special teams is hit or miss. That's not
special teams is hit or miss. If you take the fake punt out, I think you feel much better about special teams.
Yes.
But yeah, it's just, to me, it's just the process of the way the offense has been is really frustrating to watch. And your quarterback is playing at a really, really high level, and it's not properly showing up in the way that the offense is moving the football and scoring points and not scoring points. I mean, they scored 6 points on offense today against a pretty bad Falcons defense. So
yeah,
it's an issue, but the defense played incredible. We spent a good amount of the first part of the show talking about the defense. So, you know, should be another one. Thank you for the super chats, but I don't understand. Jesus, this was a team that won off a short week going CC to play cross country to play a 10 a.m. game against a team off a bye, but y'all sound like the Pats game in 2020. We spent a lot of time.
Go find our reaction to the Pats game in 2020. I promise you, it's a lot worse than this one.
I believe the title of that episode was Anthony Lynn Sucks. That was that episode.
That would have got so many views these days. Oh
yeah.
Man.
Yeah. I get it. Like, the Chargers won. I don't understand how anybody can watch the offense today and be like, yeah, go offense. Like, they're doing so good. The offense was objectively horrible today. Like, it was bad. Lad McConkey was the only offense today. So,
and he's hurt.
Yeah, and he's hurt. So, yes, the Chargers won. They deserve a ton of credit for winning a game that they usually lose as a franchise. But the offense is a major, major concern. And I apologize if that is not what you want to hear. But the offense scored 6 points today and had 187 yards of offense. So, yeah, they deserve to be criticized. It was awful today.
40-second half yards.
Yeah.
40-second. Yeah, we'll do that chat instead of QQQ. That's a better one. Yeah. We just, it's not like a whole sky is falling thing for us, but we have to talk about these things and these separate issues. So you as the listener, or ourselves, even just for ourselves, we're not surprised when things like this happen. You know, we beginning of the year had to talk about the issues in the defense and the lack of personnel they might have. And then we see the Bengals games and the Ravens games, and half the fan base, the sky was falling. It's like they had no idea, you know, that this defense could potentially not hold up well against very good offenses. But so we got to talk about these things. It's okay.
Yeah. Hopefully they can figure things out. It is much better to win an ugly game than to lose an ugly game. But at the same time, like, the Chargers have Justin Herbert. We expect a lot from this offense. And not even a lot. I expect them to not score 6 points against the Falcons. Like, this Falcons team is not a good defense. And for the Chargers to come out and have 187 yards of offense is, to me, not acceptable for what the offense is capable of. That's my thinking here, is that they are not living up to expectations. And yes, they won, but you're not getting 4 interceptions against better quarterback play, and you're not getting a pick 6 every single week. So, if you're cool with the offense being awful in the second half, like, cool for you. I don't agree with that approach. I expect the offense to be much better when they have a top 5 quarterback in the NFL and a at least above average offensive line. So that's my thought process there.
Yeah. Oh,
well. Pineapple Express back with another one. When can Chargers learn from teams like Pitt/KC to keep a coordinator like Minter long term?
You got to find a former head coach who sucked as a head coach, but was actually a pretty good coordinator. And no one wants to hire that guy anymore for head coach.
Yeah.
So Spags, wasn't exactly the greatest head coach. No one's going to, I don't know, maybe they will at some point, but it doesn't seem like it hasn't seemed like teams have been, trying to go get a guy, him for their coach. So
Spags is 64, so he's not exactly getting younger. In St. Louis, he went 11-41.
That's not good.
So, and then he got a second job with the Giants, and they went 1-4, and he was fired.
That's it.
That's it.
That's hilarious. Brian Flores, Dan Quinn for a few years there with the Cowboys. Go find. Although Dan Quinn was not a bad head coach, but
yeah.
I think if we're doing this conversation because people are throwing out names in the chat, I think they just promote internally. We talked about Klingscale, O'Leary. Yeah. I think that group, unless they bail and go with Minter, which is possible. I think that you just promote internally.
Yeah, I think Steve Klingscale would be the guy. And then if Klingscale leaves, then you would kind of, approach like an external hire.
Yeah.
In terms of keeping him, we'll see what happens. There's been some more buzz for some other offensive coordinator candidates. There's been obviously a lot of buzz for Mike Vrabel, although he potentially could take the Ohio State job that's going to open up in a couple of weeks because Ohio State lost to Michigan inexplicably. Bill Belichick is around, so we'll have to see like what these openings actually look like. And then the way that Jesse Minter has talked about coaching for Jim Harbaugh, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up sticking around just because he wants to keep this thing rolling with Jim Harbaugh. So, but at the end of the day, like he's on track to be a head coach sooner rather than later. He's the job that he's done with this Chargers defense, to me, is the best assistant coaching job in the NFL because of the way he's elevated this team and these players. So I think there's a better chance of him sticking around now than I felt probably like a month ago.
Definitely.
But we'll have to see. And then as Pat points out, you could also make him an associate head coach, give him a raise, etc., and kind of incentivize him to stay around for another year or two. But he's going to get interviews. He's going to be, a hot commodity. If he doesn't leave this year, it's probably going to be in 2026.
Yeah, I think so. So he got, thankfully, I suppose, another year and X number of games this year with Minter.
Yeah. Richard joked about Matt Eberflus coming on down.
Oh, man, the Eberflus, Harbaugh, Trestman clock management battle is going to be legendary.
Yeah, but they'll have options. I mean, a lot of coaches are going to want to coach for Jim Harbaugh. If he wanted to go external, like I think he would have people lining up to come, work with this kind of environment. And a guy like Matt Eberflus or Robert Saleh or somebody like that, come get right in the Jim Harbaugh coaching academy and reboot your image a bit. I think would not be the craziest thing in the world. But again, I feel like right now on December 1st, there's a better chance that Minter sticks around for 2025.
Yeah, I do as well.
All right. I feel like this was about 50-50 in terms of positive and negative. Thanks to some of their super chats, we got to some more positive things. But if you joined us late, there was more positive early in the show for sure.
Yes, if you miss half of a show, you might miss the half that was positive. We did start positive. They did win. I am happy they won. I am nervous about the game against the Chiefs next week, but for now, they won. And so that's That's good. They are on pace to make the postseason. That is good. We will continue talking about the issues the Chargers might be having en route to the postseason, especially if it rears its ugly head in the postseason. But I am happy that they won. I am happy that they won, guys.
Yeah, if they had lost this game, we would be having a much different conversation today. But they won. They're 8-4. It's mostly good vibes. The team has had a successful season to this point. They just got to win 2 more games to get to 10 wins, get to the playoffs, and we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That is going to do it for us today. We appreciate all of you guys for tuning in live. As if you're watching this on repeat, we appreciate you as well. Make sure to leave a rating, review, comment. All that stuff does help continue to grow the show. We will be back on Tuesday for our usual film review show. And that's going to do it for us today. We'll see you next time. As always, Bolt up.